China Unmasked. Chinese diplomat threatens to cut off Japan's prime minister's head. For those in a hurry, here's a short summary of the topic. Japan's new prime minister, Sanai Takeichi, broke decades of strategic ambiguity by announcing that Japan would defend Taiwan if China attacked. Beijing reacted with explosive fury. State commentators launched insults, but the darkest moment came when a Chinese diplomat in Japan posted and quickly deleted a threat to cut off the head of Japan's leader. The violent message exposed China's raw, unfiltered nationalism and its instinct to intimidate through brutality rather than diplomacy. The threat revealed a regime that reacts to disagreement with aggression, glorifies political violence, and uses fear as a weapon when its authority feels challenged. Now the complete version of the topic. China's rage against Japan's new Taiwan policy. A brutal threat exposes Beijing's mindset. Introduction. A new leader, a new clarity. Japan's newly elected Prime Minister, Sanai Takeichi, ended decades of strategic ambiguity in a single firm declaration. Japan would not stand aside. If China attacked Taiwan, Japan would defend it. This statement shattered the delicate balance that had defined East Asian diplomacy for years. It also cracked open something darker inside China, anger so intense that it crossed the line into violent threats. What followed revealed not only political fury, but a glimpse into the brutal reflexes embedded deep within China's ruling culture. A shift Beijing never expected. For decades, Japan avoided saying directly what it would do in a Taiwan conflict. The ambiguity gave both sides room to maneuver. But Takeichi removed that shield. Her position was unmistakable. A Chinese invasion of Taiwan would trigger Japanese involvement. This clarity struck Beijing at its core. China has long treated Taiwan as a non-negotiable possession. Any nation challenging that belief instantly becomes an enemy. Japan, by taking this stance publicly, delivered a blow to China's political ego, and China reacted with predictable fury. Beijing's outrage turns violent. China condemned Takeichi's comments immediately. State-aligned commentators launched insults, accusing Japan of interfering, provoking, and reviving militarism. But the outrage didn't stop at propaganda. A Chinese diplomat posted something far more violent, something that exposed the true brutality lurking beneath China's diplomatic mask. He threatened to cut off the head of Japan's prime minister. No metaphor. A direct, grotesque threat from a representative of the Chinese state operating inside Japan. That single post shattered any illusion that China's aggression is purely rhetorical. The deleted threat that reveals everything. The diplomat deleted the post quickly, but not before it spread across Japanese media platforms. The speed of deletion didn't matter. What mattered was the instinct behind the words. Threatening to behead the leader of a democratic nation is not a normal diplomatic reaction. It reflects a deep-seated culture of intimidation that China uses whenever its political authority feels threatened. The diplomat's message exposed how China views Japan, how China treats disagreement, and how China instinctively resorts to violence in political conflicts. This wasn't an accident. It was a window into Beijing's true mindset. China's brutal nationalism takes center stage. China did not disown the threat. There was no apology from Beijing, no disciplinary action, only silence. And silence inside China rarely means disapproval. The state's propaganda ecosystem thrives on hostility. For years, China's education system, films, and state media have cultivated extreme nationalism, particularly against Japan. Generations have been raised on narratives that Japan is an eternal enemy, Japan deserves punishment, Japan's leaders are villains, and Japan must be humbled. In that environment, a threat to cut off the head of Japan's prime minister doesn't feel shocking to the most aggressive voices in China. It feels justified. Chinese nationalism has become a weapon, and its brutality is no longer hidden. A dangerous fusion of politics and violence. The diplomat's words were not isolated. They reflect a pattern seen repeatedly in Chinese online and offline rhetoric. Whenever Beijing faces criticism, especially about Taiwan, Chinese extremists escalate to violent language, and the state allows it. Violent threats become tools of influence. Fear becomes a political instrument. Brutality becomes an unofficial diplomatic pressure tactic. Japan's resolve meets China's fury. Despite the backlash, Takeichi did not walk back her stance. Her government signaled that Japan's security is tied to Taiwan's survival. This clarity enraged Beijing further, but it also exposed China's strategic insecurity. A quick request: if you found this podcast interesting so far, I'd appreciate it if you'd give it a like. You'd also be doing us a huge favor if you'd subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. Beijing's diplomacy masks off. Diplomacy relies on restraint. China showed none. The threat from the diplomat revealed a tolerance for violent rhetoric within Chinese foreign service, a political culture that sees intimidation as legitimate, a belief that Japan should be submissive, an unwillingness to accept criticism or challenge, a deep fear that Japan's supporting Taiwan. China's diplomats often act as enforcers rather than negotiators, echoing the regime's aggression rather than tempering it. The deleted post wasn't a slip. It was an honest expression China simply wasn't ready to publicly defend. A growing divide in East Asia. Takeichi's announcement and China's brutal reaction signal a shift that will define the region's future. Japan is stepping toward a more assertive defense posture. China is descending deeper into aggressive nationalism. The two paths are incompatible, and with Taiwan at the center, the stakes are enormous. China's threat to behead a foreign leader is not a small diplomatic scandal. It is a sign of how unstable and extreme Chinese political behavior has become. In the coming years, this divide will deepen unless China fundamentally changes its approach, something that currently seems impossible. Sources: Chinese social media analysis reports, Weibo, Bilibili, Douyin sentiment studies, academic papers on PRC nationalism and anti-Japanese propaganda, research from the Jamestown Foundation on Chinese online extremism, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International reports on political rhetoric in China, Japanese Ministry of Defense annual security reports, publications by scholars such as Rana Mitter, Sheena Greitens, and Ian Easton on China-Japan hostility, media analyses from Nikkei Asia, the Japan Times, and Kyodo News.